Welcome to the Data Analysis Software Training, SPSS for Data Analysis. I am your instructor, Elijah Pia, and in this video, we will learn about how to create data file, or basically guide you through the data creation and entry procedure. Before creating the data file, you should think carefully to ensure that the structure of your file allows all the analysis you desire. Also, there are times people come to you for help with data analysis, and so creating a good data is very essential to the process of analysis. Let us now launch the SPSS program. The data view screen is the default view whenever the SPSS program is launched. This screen has this spreadsheet basically designed to enter data after the data file has been created. The other screen is the variable view screen designed to name, label, and determine the specifications for each variable we want to create. Let us now create our own data file. Suppose that we conducted a survey and administered this questionnaire soliciting information from people on these 4 questions. What is your gender? How many years of education have you completed? How would you rate public schools in your community? How liberal or conservative are you? Since statistics is most often done with numbers, we need to develop a numeric coding system for the answers to these questions. For instance, the first question asks whether the respondent is a male or female. In such a case, we will likely assign the number 1 for a female respondent and 2 for a male respondent. You will also need a short variable name for the variable that will contain this data. In this case, gender will suffix. A typical codebook for a questionnaire can be created, and this is displayed on the screen. What is your gender has the variable name gender, and its value labels female and male, where female is coded as 1 and male coded as 2. How many years of education have you completed is most likely numeric, and for that matter has no value labels and hence no coding. Thus, we give the variable name EDUC, which is a short for education. How would you rate public schools in your community? In that case, the variable name is SCH_COM and has the value labels very poor coded as 1, poor, 2, okay, 3, good, 4, very good, 5. How liberal or conservative are you? We give the variable name conserve, which is also short for whether the individual is a conservative or at least liberal, and has the value labels very liberal, which is also coded as 1, liberal for 2, moderate for 3, conservative for 4, and very conservative 5. Let us enter the codebook for our data file into SPSS. Beginning with the variable view screen, simply type the names of your variables one at a time in this first column. The first variable is gender, education. Go to the data view and you will find that your variables have their names as the column headers of the data view spreadsheet. Let us look at the other specifications. When you click on the first cell under type, you notice a small gray box to the right of the word numeric. Clicking on this box opens a dialog box which contains the variable types. Check any one of them which describes your data. The default selection is numeric, as most of your variables will be numeric, and so we retain this default variable type. Click OK to go back to the variable view screen. However, note that if we had a variable named first name of respondent, then the variable type will probably be a string variable. However, this is not ideal to our case here. The width is set to fit the largest number or string for a variable, yet we would like to maintain the number 8 in here. As for decimals, we set all the variables to 0 decimal places. So in that case, we have 0 decimal places for each of the variable we have specified in our codebook. The label column allows you to label any variable whose meaning is not clear from the variable name. I think gender is okay, but for education, we label it as education. SCH_COM, it is not clear from the variable name, and for that matter, we give it the label public school rating. Also, conserve is just by definition not clear with the name, and for that matter, we would normally write something like conservative or liberal, and that will give us an idea about what the variable actually is. value labels allow you to identify levels of a variable. One advantage of value labels is that SPSS can display these labels in your data file or in output when you run a procedure. Click on the small gray box to the right of the cell selection, and a dialog box appears that will allow you to create value labels. For gender, we type 1 as the value and its label is female per our codebook. Click on Add to add this label. Again, we type in the value 2 and its label is male. Click on Add and our label is also added. When done, click on OK and SPSS display your value label in the corresponding cell. For education, it is mostly numeric and for that matter has no label. Now, for public school rating, click on the small grade box. We enter 1 for very poor. Click on Add, 2 for poor, 3 for okay, 4 for good, 5 for very good. Click on Add finally and click on OK to display the labels in the corresponding cell. For how conservative or liberal the respondent is, we also again click on the small grid box, go into the value labels dialog box, and the value 1 for very liberal, 2 for liberal, 3 for moderate, 4 for conservative, 5 for very conservative. Click on Add and click OK. Now let us go back to the data view screen and see what this did to our data. For instance, with the gender, we coded 1 for female and 2 for male. So if the first respondent is a female, we enter 1 in the first cell. If the second respondent is a male, we enter 2 in the second cell. Now, to display these value labels in the gender column, then go to the toolbar icons and click on these value labels. Click on it and it will change to the label itself. Click on it again and the values will be displayed. Now let us go back to the variable view screen. The missing column is rarely used, but its purpose is to designate different types of missing values in your data. We assume that there are no missing values, so this column is ignored. The columns column also allows you to identify how much room to allow for your data and labels. We will probably leave them at the value 8. Again, the align column provides a drop-down menu that allows you to align the data in each cell, right, left, or center. By default, numeric values align to the right, string variables align to the left. You may select otherwise if you wish. The measure column also provides a drop-down menu that allows you to select 3 options based on the nature of your data: scale, ordinal, and nominal. Scale measures have intrinsic numeric meaning that allow typical mathematical manipulations. For instance, years of education is a scale variable. So here we select scale. Ordinal measures typically describes ordered data, such as on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this video tutorial? A rating greater than 5 basically indicates that the tutorial is great, but we do not have such order of rating. Nominal measures are used for identification and are typically named such as gender, male or female. So in that case, for gender, we will most likely select nominal. We can also have something like marital status if there was such variable in your codebook. So for public school rating, we can choose nominal since they have been coded accordingly. And also for the variable that measures whether an individual is conservative or liberal, we will most definitely choose nominal. Sometimes it can be difficult to choose between scale and ordinal. However, don't worry too much since SPSS handles both ordinal and scale variables identically. The last column, role, is designed for large data sets in which the researcher wishes to keep track of which variables are undesignated. Input is the default in this case. Which variables are dependent variables, that is, targets, and other functions unique to experimental designs. For most studies, this column may be ignored, so input is definitely okay. Now switching to the data view screen, we can enter our data for the respondents. Under the gender variable, we have already indicated 1 for the first respondent and 2 for a male respondent as a second who responded to our questionnaire. So we can enter more of these data. So let us do that for the first 10. For years of education, let us assume that the first respondent actually had 10 years of education, and as follows, we can enter any data that we would like to enter. For public school rating, we coded this variable from 1 to 5, from very poor to very good. And for that matter, we can enter any of these for any of the respondents. This is just any usual data that we are entering. And also for the last variable, how liberal or conservative are you? We can also do that since it has been coded from 1 to 5. So any value that lies between 1 to 5 is in accordance with our coding. We have only put in a fictitious data, but the meaning is quite clear on how to enter data into SPSS. To this end, I hope you found this lesson useful. Thank you and have a nice day.